Hi, I'm Ross Benjamin. Welcome to another edition of our sports betting podcast, The Winner's Circle. As always, I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Chip Chirimbes. And Chip Chirimbes of the A Play, and pretty soon to be known as Chip Chirimbes from chipwins.com, whose new website will be up and ready to go in a couple days. And I know Chip's looking forward to that, and I'll let him talk about it. How you doing today, Chip? Tell the folks about your new site.
The new site's coming along. I think we're ready for sales right now, and I just have to start loading the weekend games. So Thursday night, I'll be ready to go with a big NFL winner, and then we'll go from there. I also have a game Friday in college football that I'm looking forward to. So, Ross, it's the middle of the season now, and we're ready for our playoff push.
Yeah, like you said, the last show that we had, a little bit of a different era we're living in right now, being COVID-19, but a positive from our standpoint is there's football every day now, The MAC is, taking Tuesdays and Wednesdays up, and then we get into our normal Thursday through Monday routine. So it's not like just because there's no other mainstream sports going on right now, it's not like we're bored, right, Chip?
Ross, they've added Pac-12 and Big Ten games to the Friday night venue. So it really gives us, instead of having to make selections from the MAC or some lower echelon schools, now we've got some quality conferences that we can make a decision on Friday nights, which is good for us.
Yeah. I mean, it avoids the standalone games, even though I know you do well in those. But, anytime you give us more options, it's going to improve our chances of winning. And speaking of Thursday night, Arizona at Seattle. This is by the way, folks, this is our midweek show in the NFL. We'll be touching upon the NFL also on Friday as we get to digest a little more information and line movement by then. But right now we're taking our early looks. And just a friendly reminder, you are viewing this Winner's Circle podcast on the OSGA YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed already, please take a second to do so. And if you have, we appreciate your support. And don't forget, give us a like at the end of the video. It'd be much appreciated. Arizona at Seattle, 6-3 against 6-3. Three-way tie in the NFC West right now with Arizona, Seattle, and the Rams. So needless to say, this is a huge game for both of these teams. Seattle got off to that 5-0 start, Chip. They've now lost three of their last four, including their last two. Yet they're a 3-point favorite in this game over the Cardinals. And they're going to be looking for revenge, Chip, after blowing that 10-point fourth quarter lead at Arizona a few weeks back and losing in overtime. Your early take?
Well, thinking back to that first game, I think we both had the right side on that one, and Arizona had a great comeback. And we finally got past Russell Wilson. We mentioned this before about how he just, seems to get us, but we've got him now of late. But now he goes home, and the odds maker has knocked off, say, that edge or that mojo that Seattle may have had. They're really a meager favorite for here. And Arizona comes up with this miraculous win last week over Buffalo. And I actually thought Buffalo had outplayed them. I thought Arizona was going to play better than they actually did. Very fortunate to win the game. But, of course, there was a bad beat on both sides, as we talked about that before, not going for the extra point.
If you're a Buffalo fan, bad beat. And if you had Arizona -2.5, bad beat.
Yeah, it was Arizona did the right thing, I think. Yes. It wasn't like the Chubb deal. I mean, why even risk it? Take the knee. I understand. If you had Arizona on the money line, or if you had bought down, you might have been better off. But when I look at this game here, it's Thursday night. I think it's time that people are starting to get sour on Seattle, and people are certainly high on Arizona. So we're like the Antichrist here. We look to go against the flow and what the momentum is. So my instincts are that Seattle's going to get a little retribution here, and at home, I think it's a very meager favorite. But, Arizona, believe it or not, right now has a #1 offense in the entire NFL, Ross.
Yeah.
And how does that vote against the number 32 defense in the NFL?
Yeah. #1 offense in terms of total yards gained per game. As far as scoring goes, Seattle, I believe, is still #1 in scoring offense. Even though they were held to 16 last week against the Rams, their previous low had been 27 before that. So, there's a reason why the total, it opened at 59. It's down to 57.5. So there's a reason why that total is so high. You know, Chip, it just seems to me that I watched Seattle's last couple games, specifically the games against Buffalo and Arizona, and it looks like teams are attacking Russell Wilson a little different right now. We both know Seattle's defense has been horrible throughout the year. That's been a constant, but they've been bailed out by the heroics of Russell Wilson and his highly efficient play. But over the last few weeks, I'm seeing a tendency here where teams are attacking Russell Wilson by blitzing him a lot and forcing him to make quick decisions. And it's really affected his performance line. I mean, I think he's turned the ball over like 8 times now over the last 4 games, which is uncharacteristic.
Absolutely. And, it's, you put pressure on any quarterback, they're going to struggle. Brady, Johnny Unitas, any of them, I don't care. They actually need to be able to get their timing and set to be able to throw the ball. Unless, of course, you're Pat Mahomes, who can throw from any position at any time. Yeah. But, I think they may have found something here, and surprisingly enough, he's usually so elusive, Ross. He's the type of guy that he makes plays when he has to scramble or he has to get out. So if you can put pressure on him and contain him, maybe you really got something going, because when he flirts out of that pocket, just bad things seem to happen on the defensive end.
Yeah. I mean, teams are pretty much holding their containment on their pass rushes where he's not able to get outside the pocket and make, like Chip is alluding to, making plays by extending plays and making throws on the run. They pretty much limited that in the 3 losses by Seattle over the last 4 weeks. Next game, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Chip. Very interesting matchup here. The Eagles coming off that loss against the New York Giants on the road. All of a sudden now the New York Football Giants are looking like a contender in the NFC East as that loss dropped Philadelphia's record to 4-6 and 1.
No, they're 3-5-1.
3-5-1 on the year. Okay. Yeah. I know there was a tie in there.
Right.
3-5-1. The Giants at 3-7. All of a sudden, Philly loses this game. They're 3-6. The Giants are on a bye and they're right there, along with the rest of the division too. But Cleveland Browns, a little bit of an enigma here for me with their offense lately, Chip. I mean, they're coming off that 10-7 lackluster win against Houston. Yes, the weather conditions weren't that good, but the game before they were held to 6 points at home against the Las Vegas Raiders, who aren't exactly one of the best defensive teams in football. So a little bit of concern for me. And there seems to be that correlation between OBJ going out and I know you're not an OBJ guy, but he gives you that vertical threat. Is that affecting their offense, Chip? And what do you see here? Cleveland at a 3-point home favorite against Philly.
All right, it may be. Beckham being out may affect them a little bit. This team did score 50 points against Dallas, but they ran the ball for the most part, and that was the most effective part of their offense. But you're right, Ross, if you don't have that vertical threat, defenses can adjust and really put pressure on your quarterback and try and shore up against your running game. An interesting thing about these two teams is Philadelphia and Cleveland both have the same point spread record. They're both 3-6. Actually, I think Cleveland's 6-3.
They're 6-3. Right.
Yeah, that's I've transferred. One's 3-6, one's 6-3. Philadelphia, they just don't seem to be able to move the ball at all. I think this line may be a little shallow with the kind of performances we've seen out of the Eagles of late. Wentz just seems to struggle at all. They don't seem to have that breakaway receiver like we had spoken about that is necessary to open up the offense a little bit. This is going to be a tough game all the way around. I think Philadelphia, they are still the division leaders, though. If you read the New York papers, you would think the Giants are a lock to run away with the NFC East because of the way they've been playing. But they got to convert that fine play into wins, Ross, or it doesn't matter. And like you said, there's big question marks around this Brown team. They just don't seem to have any consistency whatsoever. Right.
And just for record keeping, in case you're keeping score at home, I should say, we like to look at this, Chip. 62% of the volume of bets at this particular moment in time have gone the way of the Cleveland Browns, but the total money bet is split down the middle, 50-50, thus the line not moving opening at 3 and being 3. And you made a good point, Chip. I mean, Cleveland's running game. Let's not forget they were without Nick Chubb for quite a long time. He returned last week and ran for over 100 yards. And like I've alluded to on several occasions during the course of doing my podcast, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better 1-2 punch in the backfield than what Cleveland has in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
It's too bad for the Brown backers that he didn't run for 101 yards last week. And you know what happened there? He stepped. I mean, well, anyway, that's another story. But both these teams could be better. It'd be an interesting game from that aspect. Is that I think they're pretty much both at the same level, though the Browns have a better record.
Yeah, I would say that if you were in the Cleveland front office, Cleveland brass, that if they told me that I was going to be 6-3 after 9 games, I think the Browns would have signed up for that, Chipper.
Sure.
Yeah, and
sure.
And Philadelphia, on the other hand, 3-5-1. That's a disappointment. You know, when you look at the talent level on that team and then take into account who's within their division, I don't think many people are happy, even though they're still in first place. There's not many people happy in Philadelphia about that 3-5-1 start.
No, agreed. And you know what? If you look at the game at just the records of the teams meeting, and with the team with the better record at 6-3 at home, very short number.
Yes, exactly. Which raises a red flag, as it always does when that type of scenario comes up. You know, all of a sudden, the general public seems to have been falling in love with the New England Patriots, Chip. You know, they 2-5. Everybody was digging that hole, and they had a leg and a half in there for New England. But you know, then they come up with a couple wins over the last couple weeks, and an impressive one over the Baltimore Ravens on national TV, which everybody viewed. Thus, I'm looking at Houston opened here at a 2.5-point favorite, and that line is now New England -2. What's your early take here? I mean, Houston 2-7. Look, Chip, they're not a 2-7 team offensively, but they certainly are defensively.
Absolutely. And, you know, as soon as this matchup, we saw this matchup on Sunday night, I actually had a guy call me from New York, and he started laughing about the game because he knows how we love to fade Houston and how horrible they've been this year. And he says, well, you're not going to be fading them this week, because we're 3-0 with and against the Patriots the last 3 weeks. They had that game where they beat the Jets and didn't cover Monday night, and they had the game against Buffalo where they lost but did cover, and then they came and they beat the Ravens outright. So the Patriots are moving along. I think there's a public sentiment, you know, in this game to be on New England. Maybe they think Belichick is so much better than whatever they have in Houston. Romeo Cornell, is that him? And I don't know. I think the line, I think Houston's the side here. I can't get away from it. I don't know if I can take them, Ross. I don't know if I can put money on
one of those
team.
uncomfortable plays, buddy.
Wow. You know, it certainly is. If you're going to put money on it, it's a really tough call. For me to be able to tell you I like Houston, or I'm going to, you know, I think they're the side, that's fine. But to be able to actually lay down your cash, I think it's a difficult thing, which might make them the play.
Well, you know, and I look at trying to make sense of this line movement, Chip. You know, we're seeing a team that opened as a favorite and has moved to an underdog. And we're talking like a 4.5-point move. When I see that, I start scanning the injury report right off the bat. But let's keep in mind, okay, these lines came out early Sunday evening, East Coast time, late afternoon, West Coast time. And Houston, New England had not played a game until Sunday night against Baltimore. So part of that line is going to be reflective of the fact that they saw New England, they went on national TV. Now they're adjusting it for public perception. But to your point, 68% of the bets right now are on New England in the 80 percentile when it comes to money bet on New England. So a lot of early money has gone New England's way too.
How could we take Houston? I mean, look what they've done. I mean, they've been absolutely horrid. I think they didn't get their first sack until like the 4th game of the season. And Watson's moved the ball for them at all, but they haven't stopped anybody. And, you know, this is a team, that reminds me a little bit of like the Lions, that just doesn't seem to have the character to overcome and win games. They had a 17-point lead against Pittsburgh, and they had double-digit leads in a number of games, and it just seems like, well, we've done our part, and then they're done. And you have to play 60 minutes. And I just don't, this Houston team, Ross, how could we possibly be thinking of it?
I know. I mean, and it's a fragile locker room, too. Let's not forget the year started with Bill O'Brien as their head coach, making that inexplicable trade during the offseason, sending DeAndre Hopkins to the Arizona Cardinals for David Johnson and a couple draft choices. And that really couldn't help the locker room culture when he made that move. That was a bad sign to start with. Then you get your head coach fired. And as Chip alluded to many times, Romeo Crennel takes over, and you reward a defensive coordinator with a head coaching job, even be it on an interim basis, that has led a defense that's been probably one of the worst in football over the last 2 seasons. So, and I believe Houston's only 2 wins came against Jacksonville this year, if I'm not mistaken. But in any event, if that's not the case, at least one did. So again, it doesn't bode for a lot of confidence in that direction, but I'm certainly not going to lay, I'll tell you one thing, I'm not going to take New England. I just think this is could be a potential flat spot for them. And they're not as good as they looked over the last 2 weeks.
Russ, they had to be big ready for that game against the Ravens. They didn't want to get embarrassed on national TV, and they come out and they played a great game. There has to be a slight letdown. Their mindset has to be at least one notch below where it was when they started to get the game against the Ravens last Sunday.
Exactly. So, all right, let's get to the next game, the Green Bay Packers at the Indianapolis Colts. This one is extremely interesting, Chip, on many fronts. Green Bay, to me, again, I'm going to say this, and I've been taking some flack for this, but I'll say it again. I don't think they're as good as their record indicates. I think they've been a beneficiary of a soft schedule. But right now, Indianapolis opened as a 3-point favorite, Chip. They're now down to 2. And Indianapolis coming off that big Thursday night win at Tennessee, a game they pretty much an early must-win situation, and they came up big in flying colors the way they succeeded in that game. And then Green Bay, they struggled with Jacksonville last week at home, Chip. Had to pull it out in the fourth quarter as a 14-point favorite. What's your thoughts, my man?
Well, my thoughts are when I first saw this that I remembered opening, and Green Bay's just coming off Jacksonville, who they narrowly won. They struggled with. But you remember opening week, Indianapolis lost outright to this Jacksonville team, which is their only win of the entire season. But that being said, I was kind of surprised that Indianapolis even came up the favorite here. I thought that the perspective of the game and the way people would view it is that Green Bay is a better team and that the Colts are still just trying to find themselves. Maybe they did find themselves in that game against Tennessee. I mean, we had the big winner there, and it didn't seem to have any – and they've had a lot of time to prepare for this game. And I think what you have said earlier is that the Packers being beneficiaries of a weak schedule have inflated their value to the public anyway, but it certainly didn't inflate their value to the bookmaker here, making Indianapolis the favorite.
Yeah, I mean, Green Bay is a public favorite anyway, right, Chipper? I mean, over the last few years, especially since Aaron Rodgers has been under center. And then to make them an underdog, they're certainly going to garner a lot of attention from the general public. So, again, that probably, without looking at the numbers, has been a reason for that line to come from 3 to 2, down to 3 to 2, I should say. So, again, a really interesting matchup. I will say this, Indianapolis is unequivocally the better defense of these two teams. Right. And Green Bay, probably the better offense of the two teams, definitely the better quarterback, definitely the top receiver, Devontae Adams. Indianapolis doesn't have a difference maker like that. Both offensive lines are good. Indianapolis real good. And both have good running games. So, it shapes up to be it'll be interesting to see on Friday when we talk, Chip, where this line goes, and we'll have a better feel at that particular moment.
And Ty Hilton's still with the Colts, am I right?
Yeah, he played last week. He's had injury problems, and he's had a hard time staying on the field over the last couple seasons because
that's too bad. He's pretty explosive.
Yeah. I mean, they could really use him in this game because he is a vertical threat and a legitimate one at that. Tennessee at Baltimore, Chip, another one. Both teams coming off losses, both teams with identical 6-3 records. Line opened at 6.5. It remains 6.5 in favor of Baltimore, I should say. Games at Baltimore. What's your early take here? One of these teams is going to be on a 2-game losing streak after Sunday.
And, well, we spoke about this Tennessee team earlier in the year, and that maybe they've lost their mojo a little bit there. That Thursday night game against Indianapolis, if you cut down their running game, Tannehill just doesn't seem to have enough to be able to do it and carry the team on his own. A strong number here, isn't it, Ross? I mean,
yes.
Isn't it the Ravens, maybe they think the Ravens defense can shut down Derrick Henry and then, Tannehill will be lost. That's how my impression is how the odds maker, the book, you said think like a bookmaker.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Maybe that's the way
they're begging you to take Tennessee, right? I mean, in this spot, yeah.
Tennessee looks inviting with those points. Derrick Henry's got to be the premier running back in the league. And, if you're telling me you have a team that's got Jim Brown on it and you're going to give him 6.5 points, you're going to take it. So this one, I'm kind of suspect. I usually look toward the dog. You know that. Yeah. And I just think this is a very formidable number, and I think the numbers is telling you the Ravens may come to play defensively, or Lamar Jackson might be able to complete a pass. I'm not sure what, but I think that's giving you the Ravens here.
Both teams are similar offensively in this respect. They both run the ball very well. Baltimore does it a little more by committee, where Tennessee features Derrick Henry. Both are the same from this point, and we've seen it in their losses this year. When they fall behind, they have a difficult time. It takes them out of their identity, which is a run-first offense. Both teams have difficulty coming from behind and depending on their quarterbacks to get them back in the game or overcome a deficit late when you have to depend on your quarterback to win it with his arm. So, again, I'm not trying to discredit either quarterback, but there's a big difference between a Lamar Jackson, a Ryan Tannehill, and an Aaron Rodgers, or even a Josh Allen right now. They have the capability of bringing their teams back, and they have that moxie where you as a fan or as a backer don't feel like you're ever out of the game. When Baltimore or Tennessee falls behind, it's like, okay, how are they going to get back in this? Because go ahead, Chip.
Well, no, I just thinking about this Derrick Henry. I said, you've seen cornerbacks and defensive backs that just really don't even want to tackle this guy. Yeah. And the Ravens have the kind of defense that will attack him and be aggressive and go hit him. But, I have to chuckle sometimes because he's coming through the line, and I'm wondering what these guys are thinking because he's so big. And his cornerback trying to hit him is really not that effective. He bounces off him. But I think the Ravens defense might be a little different.
Yeah, and very deceiving speed. You know what I mean? Because you see a big guy, and it looks like he's just chugging along, but he gets in the open field, and not many people catch him from behind, Chip.
No, he was great out of Alabama. I was surprised he was drafted as low as he was, but running backs weren't a priority at that time.
They're not a priority anymore like they used to be, back in the day. Kansas City at Las Vegas, a big AFC West showdown, especially for the Raiders, who are 6-3, Kansas City 8-1. The Raiders with the win can close the gap there. They've already defeated Kansas City at Kansas City, and Kansas City right now is a 7-point favorite, same as the opening line. At Las Vegas, a lot of momentum right now. Kansas City is Kansas City. You're going to have your A game, or you're not going to win this game, or you could get embarrassed if you don't. What's your feel here, Chip?
Well, the Raiders know they can play with Kansas City, right? I mean, they beat them once already. Now they have them at home. And, I mean, of course, no one's going to be in there to support them as far as attendance goes. But, Gruden's done a great job. We've talked about this before. I mean, he's looking for a ball control offense with 2 great running backs. He's got the kid from Alabama, Jacobs, who runs well, and he's got the receiver from Alabama. So he just – Derek Carr's, you give him time, like we said this, and he's not going to make mistakes. He's throwing the ball very accurately, And Gruden has taken the game and actually shortened the field. I mean, he doesn't throw vertically, like you've said, very often. And yet they're able to control the ball. Their defense is much improved. And, this offensive line, I think we've talked about it, Ross. They've only had 10 plays the entire season where the starting lineup was together. They've had COVID issues. They've had injury issues. And yet, that's why I look at this game and I just think Gruden. I think he's done a great job. And Kansas City, of course, is going to want to get back at him for sure.
Revenge,
but it's going to be, we say revenge. I use it all the time. But I'm wondering if the players are actually thinking like that, other than the fact that they, let's just win this game.
Yes. It's a game that if Kansas City wins, it's probably not going to shock anybody. It's probably not going to shock anybody as far as their preseason predictions go, because if they win this game, they're going to be in big control of this AFC West. They'll have a 3-game lead at that point. Can't see the Raiders catching them at that juncture. If the Raiders win, at least it makes it interesting. But what we're really after is, what can the Raiders cover the 7-point spread? Can Kansas City cover the 7-point spread? How are they going to react after? Are they going to wake up after losing to the Raiders the last time? And Derek Carr had a phenomenal game in that game in Kansas City. And let's not forget, Chip, Andy Reid's record when coming off a bye in Philadelphia and in Kansas City has been terrific. We can't ignore that. So I'll be interested when Friday comes around if we see any line movement there. And I'll be more specific with you, the viewer and listener, as far as what Andy Reid's record has been coming off a bye in both Philadelphia and Kansas City. I could assure you it's a pretty darn good one. Last game, Chip.
Hold on, Ross. Before you move last one, I'd be interested to know at this point, how's the public bet on this Raider game so far?
All right. So give me a second here. Asking you should receive, buddy.
I should ask you before the show, but.
Yeah, okay. So the source I have, I'm seeing Kansas City opened at 7.
Right.
This particular source where I look at the money has them opening at 6 and moving to 7.5. But I could assure you there are some 7.5s out there. That's
right, so we've seen action toward the Chiefs. Gravitating.
65% of the bets have been made on the Chiefs. That's individual bets, folks.
Right.
And that's accounted for 90% of the bets, the point spread bets that's been made in this game. So overwhelmingly, the general public has sided with Kansas City in this situation.
Wow.
So
I'm a little surprised, Ross. I'm a little surprised it's that strong.
Well, I can tell you why. It's well documented, Andy Reid's record off a bye.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
and then the other part of it is I'm sure they're looking and saying, Andy Reid's record off a bye in Kansas City playing with revenge. I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. But that doesn't mean I like it or you like it.
Okay.
It's just,
I know.
We're trying to make sense of the move or the money.
Right.
Okay. So the last game we're going to talk about comes on Monday night, and it's a good one. The LA Rams at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Nice. So we always don't end up with good Monday night games near the end of the year because they always try to forecast who's going to be good at this point.
Right.
And sometimes they're way off, but this time they're not. Both teams 6-3. The Rams coming off a big win over Seattle. Tampa Bay, after that embarrassing loss against New Orleans, bounced back and trounced Carolina last week on the road. Right now, it opened at -3 for Tampa Bay, and it's now up to 4, Chip. Interesting here. Rams defense looks awful darn good. Tampa Bay showed me something character-wise by bouncing back after that humiliating loss on national TV. What's your thoughts here, Chipper?
All right. When the stats just came out for the NFL total yardage of the leaders for passing and rushing and defense, and Tampa Bay is 1 and 2 in offense and defense, and yet they open a field goal favorite at home, which they're telling us that this game is a pick'em as far as they're concerned. Brady's been fabulous, like we said before. If he doesn't play against the New Orleans Saints, he's got 21 touchdowns and only 2 INTs. The Saints have been, his Achilles heel and the thorn in his side.
And they'd be, what are they, 6-3? They'd be 6-1.
Yeah, it's if they had just split with him. But anyway, So this number to me seems kind of meager. The Rams were very impressive in that game they won last week. They beat Seattle by 7. And that's only because Russell Wilson has a way of keeping it close. I think they dominated the game. I know they dominated the game. I saw them physically dominate Seattle last week. And maybe the Rams are getting ready to play. This is a great game. And you know what, Russ? It seems like we're getting an awful lot of spoon-fed Tampa Bay every week, somewhere or another. We're getting Tom Brady to go with or against them. Yeah. And, he rises to the occasion more times than not. But with the number 1 and the number 2 offense and defense, and the Buccaneers at home, it should be 4. It should be 4.5 as an opener in my mind, or at least 4. The open 3, it's sort of like the bookmakers is saying, well, I'll let you lay 3 right away and then make a decision later. I mean, that's how I think I
agree with you. I mean, that logic is sound, and I agree with you. Let's not forget the Rams ain't bad defensively either. They're number 6 in total defense. Here's the thing. Tampa Bay has been great against the run over the last 2 years. They were number 1 last year. I believe they're still number 1 this year against the run. If they're not number 1, they're in the top 3 anyway. Right. Jared Goff is going to have to make some plays in this game. And the wide receivers for the Rams are going to have to make some plays because it's highly improbable they're going to have a lot of success running the ball. And they're going to be stuck in some behind the chains on occasions if they want to go run first. So he's going to have to make some plays. And, other than that Super Bowl year, he's been inconsistent since then, Chip. I mean, he looks so good sometimes and then looks very ordinary or bad at other times. So I think he's going to be the key here, He
very well may be. And, if this Tampa defense can force him into making some errors, it may be a long day for the Rams. But, it's funny how some of these guys that got these big contracts, Wentz, Foles, here we go with Goff, and Cousins, they're really not elite quarterbacks at all.
Look what happened with Joe Flacco. You won a Super Bowl, you got that $1 billion contract. I'm being facetious.
Right.
And he hasn't done anything since. So.
Well, I used to tell people I'm happy with Trent Dilfer. He doesn't turn the ball over.
He knows
how to
Super Bowl,
win.
Man. Say what
he
you
knows
will.
How to win. And then I tried, they said, why? And I says, well, he set an NCAA record at Fresno State went an entire season without throwing an interception. Yeah. And, that you have to have good instinct and good football knowledge and in mind to be able to do that and throw the ball away when you have to, or throw it away from where the defender might have a chance for it.
He had no ego, too, at the NFL level because he was perfectly fine with a great defense, knowing he just had to be a game manager. He played within himself. You're not going to win a lot of Super Bowls like that, okay? That was a rare instance. And if you look over Super Bowl history, most times than not, you're going to find the winning quarterback has been a star.
That was a wild card team that was 9-7. I mean, so
they beat your
great
New York Football Giants. They beat.
Yeah, I know. I had a big bet on the Ravens that day. Believe me.
Which shows your professionalism. That's something I would never do.
I was at the game with 10 people. All 9 guys I was with had the Giants. And I go, well, you got a wild card team favored in the Super Bowl.
But you had to be buying dinner after that game. Anyway,
I hid from them.
We got about 2 minutes left here, Chip. Tell the folks how they could reach you. Give your new website a plug here.
Thank you.
If you have anything on tap, let us know.
All right. Although Thursday, I'm going to have the NFL game without question. You can receive that winner if you haven't remembered who I gave it to you here at chipwins.com. But that's not the only thing you're going to be able to get there. Of course, I have my Big Ten game of the year Saturday, and we're going to be loaded up with that. So you don't want to miss that. Last year, in the last couple of years, we've gone 17-6 with these called games. And this is the first game of the year in the Big Ten right here. You don't want to miss it, 3:30 Eastern.
And your new website is chipwins.com. And if people want to reach you, Chip, personally, they'd rather talk to you and try to work something out with you, your number.
Excuse me, Russ. Sometimes people don't want it. They want only NFL or they want only college. So we can design a package for you. You call me, tell me what you're looking for and your needs, and we'll make an adjustment. But taking it each and every day, get the 8 play from Chip Wins, and I think you'll end up ahead of the game before it's over. And
what's
by the way,
phone number, Chip?
Call me. If you go to Chip Wins, you'll see the number. But I'm at 702-931 Chip. That's 702-931-2447. Thank you, Ross.
Okay, Chipper. And now you could find me at rbwins.com. My NFL since the first Monday night of the year, 32-21, which is good for 60%. And I have a college football pickup tonight in the MAC, believe it or not, Chip. I got the winning side in one of the MAC games this evening. You can get that at rbwins.com, $35, or you could subscribe. $199 for 7 days, $499 for 30 days. I give you my personal guarantee on subscription plans, not daily plans, subscription plans. If you're not making a profit at the end of the subscription, I will continue on with you until you do. That's rbwins.com. I'm Ross Benjamin, and for Chip Chirimbes, thank you for joining us today on the Winner's Circle. We'll be back tomorrow with our late college football edition. Until the next time, good luck and God bless.